The UK has returned to the Brexit negotiating table with several warnings. Prime Minister Boris Johnson has threatened to leave the European Union without a deal if the bloc fails to agree on a Canadian-style free trade agreement by mid-October.
There needs to be an agreement with our European friends by the time of the European Council on 15 October if it's going to be enforced by the end of the year. So there's no sense in thinking about timelines that go beyond that point. If we can't agree by then I do not see that there will be a free trade agreement between us, and we should both accept that and move on.
Talks on a trade deal and future relationship have been deadlocked since January. The main sticking points remain the same: the EU's access to British fisheries and Northern Ireland customs. The current deal includes special arrangements to avoid a hard border between Northern Ireland and the Republic of Ireland. But London now aims to override those parts of the agreement in a move lawmakers say is illegal.
This does break international law in a very specific and limited way. We are taking the power to disapply the EU law concept of direct effect required by Article 4 in a certain, very tightly defined circumstances. And there are clear precedents for the UK and indeed other countries needing to consider their international obligations as circumstances change.
The EU has reminded the UK of its commitments.
I trust the British government to implement the withdrawal agreement, an obligation under international law and prerequisite for any future partnership. Protocol on Ireland and Northern Ireland is essential to protect peace and stability on the island and integrity of the single market.
The prospect of a disorderly Brexit has also frightened investors. British stocks fell on Tuesday and the pound has plunged to a 4-week low against the dollar. Adding to the tensions is the resignation of the head of the UK government's legal department, Jonathan Jones, in protest against the proposed changes to the Brexit agreement. The UK is expected to publish its internal market bill on Wednesday. If passed, analysts say it would jeopardize the whole treaty as the clock ticks down towards the end of a 4-year saga. Sibel Karkus, TRT World.
For more on this, Denis MacShane joins me from London. He's the UK's former Minister of State for Europe and the former Labour Member of Parliament. He's also the author of Brexit No Exit, Why Britain in the End Won't Leave Europe. Good to have you on the program with us. Downing Street reportedly is planning to challenge parts of the Brexit withdrawal agreement. What are the implications of this?
Very serious. There's a debate, negotiations are going on. This is not normal. But when Britain lectures China, for example, on breaking international law in Hong Kong, or Britain, I assume, isn't happy with breaking international law in Belarus or the poisoning of Navalny, and here we are saying, oh, we signed this, the Prime Minister signed this in honour a year ago, and now he says, I was keeping my fingers crossed behind my back. I don't believe a word of it. I can rewrite it. It's frankly, as a historian of British politics and diplomacy, it's never happened before in our recent history. It's quite serious indeed. It's part of the tension over Brexit. I hope this can be resolved. But my goodness, with COVID as well, this is a very, very unhappy time for Mr. Johnson.
You were a Labour MP. If Boris Johnson fails at this, how does this impact his party long term? I mean, after all, this is the one thing that he said that he would get done.
Yes, and he can get it done if he's prepared to compromise with the rest of Europe. Now, if that fails and we have a crash out and we have no deal, we'll have 50-kilometre queues on the border going back into France from Calais, coming into England from Dover at the beginning of January. People, 350,000 city professionals, bankers, investment fund guys, losing their right to do any business in Europe, citizens in Europe not sure of their status, perhaps having to come home. This ahead of particularly the election to the Scottish Parliament next May, because the Scots are very angry. They want to stay in Europe. They lost the overall UK-wide vote. This will cause a big crisis in British politics, I think.
At this point, how easy is it for the European Union to walk away from these talks?
They don't want to. Nobody does who's got remotest bit of intelligence. I don't think Boris Johnson, I have known him for some time. You mentioned a book, I've written another one since then called Brexiternity, why this thing is going to go on forever. But I showed him the book you mentioned. He said, Dennis, I agree with you completely. And that's what Boris is like. He's a journalist all his life who delivers at the last, his copy is writing right up to the last minute deadline. So right now, I don't think this matters very much to him. It'll happen if it does happen, right at the last minute. But in the meantime, he likes to stir the pot. He has to tell his faithful, the people who believe in a very hard, aggressive Brexit, I'm with you. He's a bit like Donald Trump in that respect. But at the end of the day, I hope, I'm not sure, I hope he'll see sense and just, we're out of Europe, Brexit has happened, we don't need to throw everything into the channel to sink and Britain to become poor and locked in a very serious economic crisis. It's now called, by the way, Brovid in Britain. Brexit and COVID have combined. The COVID economic impact, Brexit economic impact is called Brovid. If I was advising Boris Johnson, I don't think he'd take my advice. I'd say, Boris, separate the two, deal with COVID. You've got us out of the European Union. We're not in the member of the EU. Live with that, pocket that. Just take it easy into 2021 and then sort out a lot of these fine details in a calmer period.
If there is no deal, though, isn't that what Boris Johnson planned all along? Is this all just saber rattling?
I genuinely don't think he plans. Forgive me. I mean, I'm a journalist too. I know them. I know the trade. He's a brilliant journalist, much better one than ever I was. And he just wakes up in the morning and says, what am I going to write today? What am I going to think today? I don't think he does long-term planning at all. He wants to be prime minister. He believes his party, his ideas are good for Britain. And he won the election, so he's got every right to try and put all that into practice. But no, I think he wrote in 2016, just after the Brexit referendum, he said, let us be quite clear, we will stay in the customs union with Europe, we will keep trading with Europe, we'll have access to the single market, all British citizens will be able still to live, to work, to settle in Europe. I'm quoting word for word, that's what he said. Well, if it all goes belly up and wrong in the next few months, all of that will be shown to be, frankly, an erroneous. I don't want to say it was a lie. The trouble with Boris Johnson is he believes what he's saying at the time he says it. But I don't think he wants to cause the country damage. I don't think he's profoundly anti-European himself. He has to manage some elements in his party who are very difficult, very ideological, very tough. But I hope he can get over them and just get to 2021 without a big economic crisis with Europe.
All right. Thank you so much for your time, Denis MacShane.